100 billion rubles. That is how much phone scammers stole during the period I was part of it. I was 15, all I did was text from a dummy phone, 30,000 a week. That's several times what my teachers were making. You would have done the same thing. I thought I'd found the perfect part-time job, until I realized what I'd gotten myself into. I live in a regional center, population about 400,000, an ordinary family. My dad works in a management company. My mom is an accountant at a polyclinic. Middle class, nothing special. A 3-bedroom flat in a residential area, an old foreign car, a holiday once a year to the sea. Everything changed on the 14th of April, 2024. That day I was sitting at home browsing Telegram. I was preparing for an algebra test, but I was more interested in my phone. In one of the channels about earnings, I saw a post. I need an operator to send SMS remotely. Salary, up to 200,000 per month. Experience is not necessary. 200,000 a month. My parents together didn't get that much. I wrote to the bot listed in the post. They answered quickly. I started with simple questions: age, city, willingness to work at night. Then he explained the essence. You send SMS through a special panel, banks, delivery, tech support, the usual notifications. We pay for the number of successful sends. It sounded harmless, like sending out adverts or notifications. I had already worked part-time as an operator at Yandex Food. I knew what remote work and piecework were. When can you start? Senior asked. That's what I called him in my head. At least right now, I replied. Half an hour later, a link to the web panel and instructions arrived in the mail. Login, password, simple interface. You choose a message template, load a database of numbers, click send. Nothing complicated. The first messages were really like bank notifications. Your card is blocked. To unblock it, please follow the link. Or, parcel awaiting collection. Pay additional fee. Paid fairly. 50 rubles for 100 SMS sent. If people followed the link, a bonus. On the first day, I earned 800 rubles for 3 hours of work. It was insane money for a schoolboy. My parents thought I was learning English through an app. I sat in my room with headphones on, poking at my phone. What was suspicious about it? And I explained the money by saying that I was writing tests and helping high school students with computer science so as not to show off. Worked every day after school. The database of numbers was updated automatically. Thousands of phones all over Russia. I just pressed buttons and watched the numbers in my wallet grow. In the first week, I earned 12,000. In a month, 47. In May, Senior offered to increase the workload. He gave access to more hot databases, numbers of people who had already responded to similar messages. They paid more, 80 rubles per 100, plus interest on conversions. I didn't question it. I just saw the numbers: shipped, delivered, earned. It was a game. I was good at that game. By the end of May, I was making about $25,000 a week, more than my classmates had made during the whole summer. I bought myself everything I wanted: new trainers, AirPods, Steam games. I told my parents I'd saved up. The older man praised my productivity, said I was one of the best in the team. He offered bonuses for overtime, bonuses for quality work. I felt like a valued employee of a successful company. Everything seemed legit. Internet marketing, gray area. I send SMS, I get paid. Simple scheme, no tricks. Until that message from Elder came that changed everything. Ready to take it to the next level? Less work, more money, but it's going to take a voice. I didn't understand what vocal meant, but the figure in the next message overrode all doubts. Up to 50,000 per week. Interested? 50 grand a week. In a month, that's more than both parents earned combined. Interested, I wrote. But at the time, I didn't know what I was signing up for. I didn't realize that voice would change everything, and that there would be no turning back. On the 26th of June, 2024, Senior sent a new instruction. Now my task was more complicated. Instead of sending SMS in bulk, I had to call specific people, those who had already fallen for the messages and clicked on the link. You introduce yourself as a bank employee, explained the elder. You say their card is at risk. They need to confirm their security details urgently. The message came with a program for making calls. The interface was simple. You downloaded a database of numbers, chose on whose behalf to call, Sberbank, VTB, Tinkoff, and clicked Call. The program itself substituted the number from which the call was coming. The official number of the bank was displayed on the victim's screen. I made my first call on the 27th of June at about 7 p.m. My hands were shaking, replied the man, a rough voice. Good evening, this is Spurbank's security service. Your card has fallen into the risk zone. Fuck you, crook, and a short beep. The second call is to a middle-aged woman, but the result is the same. I know your schemes and disconnect. And so, on my seventh call, I successfully processed my first victim. A woman in her 40s answered, judging by her voice. Good evening, this is Spurbank's security service. Your card has fallen into the risk zone. Suspicious transactions have been recorded. What operations? She became alarmed. Next, I read from the script Senior had given me. He talked about scammers trying to access her card, that I should immediately block the old card and apply for a new one. Are you sure you're from the bank? She said warily. There are a lot of scammers calling now. Of course, madam. Look at the screen of your phone. Do you see the number? You can check it online right now. It's the official number of Spurbank. She checked. The number was indeed the official one. The program spoofed perfectly. For further verification, give me the last 4 digits of your card, I continued. I'll check against our database. She named it. I paused, as if checking. That's right, now I need full details for an emergency lockdown. 15 minutes of persuasion, and she dictated the card number, expiry date, and CVV code. For this successful call, I received 5,000 rubles for about half an hour's work. Good job, Senior wrote. I'll give you a hot base tomorrow. People are already scared there, easier to take. Hot base. These were the numbers of those who had received SMS about blocked cards or problems with their accounts over the last few days. They were already on alert, waiting for a call from the bank. For the next 2 weeks, I called every day. After school, I sat down at the computer, started the program, and started calling the list. I averaged 15, 20 calls a night. 4 or 5 were successful. For each knocked-out card data, they paid from 3,000 to 5,000 rubles, depending on the amount on the account. By mid-July, my weekly earnings had grown to 40,000. I was buying whatever I wanted without counting the money. A new iPhone 15, brand-name clothes, top-of-the-range headphones. I told my parents that I was very successful at trading in games. I bought skins cheaply and sold them for more. But most importantly, I felt like a professional. The Senior sent regular updates, new scripts for conversations, fresh bases, improved spoofing programs. I studied people's psychology, learning how to evoke the right emotions. Fear, urgency, trust. The key is to create a sense of disaster, Senior taught. People in a panic don't think logically, they just want the problem to go away. And it worked. At the end of July, Senior suggested another improvement. Now I was not just getting card data, but helping people to protect their money. Transfer all funds to a secure account, I told the victims. This is a temporary measure. Once we block the scammers, we'll get the money back. The safe score, of course, belonged to our team. The 3rd of August 2024 was my most successful day. I processed 18 people in one evening. 11 gave card details, 6 agreed to transfer money to a safe account. My share was $84,000. 84,000 rubles for 4 hours work. I felt like the king of the world. I bought gifts for my friends, took girls to expensive restaurants, rented a flat for parties. At 15, I had the life of a successful adult. The older man praised my results. He said he was considering me for a promotion, a coordinator for newcomers. He promised a percentage of their earnings, plus training bonuses. I was swimming in success and money. I didn't think about what happened to people after our calls. They were just voices on the phone, sources of numbers on the screen. Until on the 15th of September 2024, I made a call that changed everything. I still dream about that voice at night. The 15th of September 2024, Monday. I remember that day down to the smallest detail. By then, I was already working at an interest rate as a valued employee. Got home from school around 4 in the afternoon, ate, sat down at the computer, the usual routine. The Senior sent a new database, a particularly hot one, as he put it. People who had already received SMS several times about blocked cards and were on the verge of panic. The first 5 calls were standardized. 3 hung up immediately, 2 listened but refused to give any details. At number 6, a woman answered. Her voice was quiet, senile. Hello? Good afternoon, this is Spurbank's security service. Your card has fallen into the risk zone. "Oh dear, again?" she blustered. "This is the third day I've been getting messages about the card. I'm so worried." Perfect victim, already scared, ready for dialogue. "Don't worry, we will help. We will now block the fraudster's card and protect your funds. Tell me, how much do you have in your account?" "I don't know exactly. My pension was recently transferred, plus what I've saved. 180,000, I think." 180,000 rubles. For a pensioner, this is a fortune. She had been saving for years. "Okay, it's a large sum. You need to protect it urgently. Scammers are already close to your account. Now I will help you transfer the money to a safe deposit." What happened next was a standard scenario. I dictated our safe account number to her and explained how to make a transfer via the mobile app. She didn't know much about technology, so she repeatedly asked me, "Are you sure you're from the bank?" She suddenly hesitated. "My granddaughter said there are a lot of crooks." "Grandma, look at the phone screen." "What number is coming up?" She slowly dictated the number. "That's right, this is Sberbank's official hotline number. Fraudsters cannot call from such a number. Now tell me, what is your surname?" "Morozova." "Elena Vasilyevna Morozova? Card ending in 4726? Yes, that's right," she marveled. Of course I had this data from the database, but for her, it was the ultimate proof. The translation procedure took half an hour. She followed my instructions slowly, made a few mistakes, and I patiently corrected her. Finally, the translation went through. "That's it. Your money is safe," I said. "In a week, when we catch the crooks, we'll transfer it back." "Thank you very much, young man. You saved me. I was so worried I couldn't sleep at night. This 180,000 is all I have, except for my pension." There was such genuine gratitude in her voice that I felt something twitch inside. "You're welcome," I muttered, and quickly hung up. The eldest immediately wrote, "Great job. 180K net. Your share is $54,000. 54,000 rubles for half an hour's conversation with a pensioner." But instead of joy, I felt something strange. For the first time in months of work, I wondered, what happens to people after we make our calls? In the evening, I went on the internet and started reading news about phone scammers, stories of victims, pensioners who had lost their life savings, people who took out loans, families that were destroyed by financial loss. One article in particular caught my eye. A 73-year-old resident of Voronezh lost 185,000 rubles after a call from a bank employee. She had been saving money for the treatment of her disabled husband. After losing all her savings, she had a heart attack. 185,000, almost as much as my victim today. I pictured that grandma on the phone call, how she would go to the bank in a week to find out about her money. How they'd explain to her that she was a victim of fraud, that the money was gone, that the so-called safe deposit was a scam. How she'll cry. That night I couldn't sleep. For the first time in months of work, I realized that I am not an IT company employee. I'm not a security specialist. I'm a fraud, a criminal. I steal money from old people. The next day, Senior sent a new base. I looked at the list of numbers and couldn't bring myself to dial the first one. "What happened?" he wrote in the evening. "Worked great yesterday, not a single call today." "I don't feel well," I lied. "Come round tomorrow. There's hot clients, you've got to work it off." But I couldn't. Every time I picked up the phone, I remembered that grandmother's voice, her gratitude, her naive trust. After a week, Senior started pushing. "What's going on? It's been a week of downtime. The other guys are showing results and you're sitting around. Tired. Need a break." "A break? With that kind of money? You're out of your mind. Work or I'll find a replacement." The threat of being replaced didn't scare me. On the contrary, there was hope that I would simply be excluded from the team and I could forget about this nightmare. But the older man wouldn't give up. He offered bonuses, promised promotions, pressed his greed. And when that didn't work, he threatened, "We have recordings of all your calls, your voice, your details. If you want to leave badly, there'll be trouble." On the 2nd of October 2024, I made a decision. I texted Senior, "I'm out. Delete my contacts." "Think again," he replied. "You can't make that kind of money anywhere else." "Already decided," I said confidently. In the evening of the same day, I uninstalled the calling program, cleared my history, and uninstalled Telegram. I took out all the money I had earned from my cards and accounts, about 500,000 rubles, and hid it at home in cash. I told my parents that the project was over and that I wouldn't do any more moonlighting. I went back to normal school life, lessons, homework, meetings with friends. but there was no peace of mind. Every night I dreamt of that pensioner's voice. Her words, "Thank you very much, young man. You saved me." I tried to forget, but I couldn't. The news kept showing stories about phone scammers. Every time I flinched, wondering if one of my victims would be shown, the months dragged by slowly. I gradually calmed down, thinking it was over, that the digital traces had been erased, that no one would find me. The eldest never wrote again. Programs deleted, contacts erased. I was clean. Or so it seemed to me. I left the circuit and forgot about her, but she didn't forget about me. 6 months of freedom. That's what I called the period from October 2024 to March 2025. The first weeks after leaving the scheme were tough. I was constantly looking around, waiting for a catch. Every call from an unfamiliar number made my heart beat faster. What if it was Senior? What if the threats were serious? But weeks went by and nothing happened. In November, I started spending the money I had saved up, carefully, in small amounts. A new laptop, clothes, birthday presents for friends. I explained to my parents that I had invested well in cryptocurrency before its growth. By December, the fears had all but disappeared. I was living the normal life of a 15-year-old schoolboy: study, friends, computer games. The winter holidays passed quietly. New Year's Eve, skating rinks, parties. I had almost forgotten about the nightmare I had created in the summer. It seemed like another life, another person. In January 2025, the usual school routine began. Preparation for the GCSEs, extra classes, plans to enter a technical college. I even thought about tying my life to IT, but honestly, working as a programmer or system administrator. On the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, I met a girl from my class, Nastya. We started dating, went to the cinema, walked around the city, a normal teenage relationship without a dark past. In March, a new dream appeared, to go to a language camp in Bulgaria in the summer. It cost 80,000 rubles, but I had the money. My parents were surprised at my desire to study English abroad, but they didn't object. I felt like a normal schoolboy with a clear conscience. And I had almost forgotten that grandmother. On the 25th of March 2025, while browsing the news in Telegram, I came across a note. In Moscow, the organizer of a large fraudulent scheme has been detained. The damage totaled more than 100 million rubles. My heart skipped a beat. I read on. The detainee coordinated the work of several dozen executors. The scheme worked from February to December 2024. February to December 2024. That's exactly the period I was working. According to the investigation, the main category of persons are citizens under 30 years of age, often minors. My hands began to tremble. I reread the news 3 times, hoping I was wrong. But no, it was our scheme. Our senior had been caught. For the next few days, I lived in constant fear. Every rustle in the entrance, every unknown number on my parents' phone made me think, that's it. They've come for me. But day after day passed and nothing happened. On the 30th of March, I couldn't stand it. I started Googling the news. Found an article, a photo of the detainee, a guy about 25 years old in a jacket, looking at the floor. Could it be the same senior with whom I had been corresponding for 6 months? The article mentioned that the investigation seized servers with databases, correspondence, call records. Work is underway to identify all participants of the criminal group. I knew they would find my calls, my messages, my voice in the records. It was only a matter of time. But time passed and nothing happened. On the 1st of April, I even thought it was some mystical date, laughing day, and everything would be fine. That they caught the wrong person, or the tapes were corrupted, or the investigation wouldn't get to the small-time perpetrators. On the 2nd of April, I went to bed thinking that tomorrow would be a normal school day. I was wrong. The 3rd of April 2025 at 6 a.m. The sharp ringing of the doorbell broke the morning silence. I woke up to voices in the hallway. Men's voices, unfamiliar voices. My parents were answering something in anxious voices. "Is the son home?" I heard. "Yeah, sleeping." "What's wrong?" "Investigative committee. We have a search warrant." My heart sank into my heels. I knew this moment would come someday, but when it did, I wasn't ready. 3 men in civilian clothes entered the room. They politely but insistently asked me to get dressed and come with them. "Mom, what's going on?" I asked, feigning surprise. "Son, these people are saying that that you've been involved in some scams on the internet." Mom was crying. Dad stood pale, not realizing what was happening. "There are reasons to believe that you are involved in the activities of an organized criminal group," explained one of the operatives. "You need to come for a testimony." I didn't resist. In my heart, I knew that sooner or later it would happen. I kept quiet in the car, thinking about the situation. They found my phone records, reconstructed my correspondence. They traced my finances. Now I had to choose whether to cooperate with the investigation or not. But who to cooperate with? I didn't know real names, addresses, nothing but a nickname and telegram and a scheme of work. I didn't know then that there were details in the case that would change my attitude towards everything that was going on. At the investigation committee, they showed me a folder. It was thick, hundreds of pages, a case of large-scale fraud. The investigator, a man in his 50s, spoke calmly. "We have recordings of all your calls. Your voice has been identified by forensics. Your correspondence has been restored. If you cooperate, you'll get a suspended sentence. If you keep quiet, you get a real one." But it wasn't the threats that broke me. It was the pictures that broke me. The investigator opened the folder and showed the photos. Elena Vasilyevna Morozova, 73 years old, the same grandmother. In the photo, she was lying in a hospital room, hooked up to an IV. "A heart attack," the investigator said. After she realized she had no more money. I was saving up for my grandson's operation. Cerebral palsy. I looked at the picture and realized I hadn't just stolen money, I had stolen hope. There were other pictures in the folder. Dozens of people who had been duped by our team. Pensioners, large families, the disabled. Each with a story, with dreams, with plans for the stolen money. "Do you want to see the statistics?" the investigator asked. 847 victims on your calls. Total damage, 12.3 million rubles. 847 people, 12.3 million, figures behind which were lives destroyed. I testified. I told everything I knew about the scheme, but Senior was smarter than that. No one knew my real name, no address, just a nickname and burnout phone numbers. My parents didn't turn away. Mom cried but hugged. Dad was silent, but he hired a lawyer. They loved me no matter what, and that was the only bright spot in this nightmare. Now I'm on my own recognizance. The case is in court. My lawyer says that I will probably get a suspended sentence, given my age and cooperation with the investigation. But the verdict is not the point. The main thing is that I realized what I had become. At the age of 15, I ruined the lives of 847 people, according to the investigation, and no amount of remorse can fix that. That's why I'm writing this confession. Maybe some teenagers will read it and think twice before accepting a harmless part-time job. Or maybe an investigator or prosecutor will find this text and realize that I am not an OCG member, but a kid who didn't know what he was getting into. I crossed the line between stupidity and crime the moment I first dialed the pensioner's number. I only realized it when it was too late. I'm 16, I'm a crook, and I'm going to have to live with that for the rest of my life. The story has garnered more than 1,200 comments on the forum where it was first published. Several users wrote that they recognized in the description their relatives who were victims of similar calls. One commenter said that his grandmother was also saving money for her grandson's treatment and lost everything after a similar call. The internet is full of offers of easy money for minors, and one can only check the real value of this money when it is too late. According to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the average age of the perpetrators of telephone schemes is between 16 and 21. They do not realize that they are becoming part of a crime that destroys the lives of hundreds of people. If this story made you think, share it with others who may be in a similar situation. Maybe someone's future can still be changed. As always, your Mr. Dark Web.